Well, we had a battery issue, so let's go ahead and talk about the warranty process. We're back again in this series where I'm talking about owning this 2023 F-150 Lightning Lariat. And one of the biggest questions I always get is what happens if you have an issue with the battery? Now, I actually get to answer that question because I had a battery issue that I had to actually go into warranty to take a look at. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about what the issue was. I'm going to show you behind the scenes and kind of talk about what they need to do to diagnose and then ultimately replace a battery module. We'll talk about the kind of issue that I had. And then I'll give you kind of my thoughts on what the process is like because, I think people are a little bit scared of, well, what if I have a battery issue or what if something goes wrong? And getting it fixed really wasn't any different than any warranty process I've ever had to do with another truck, on top of the fact that the Lightning has a better powertrain warranty than the standard F-150, and that's going to be an 8-year, 100,000 miles. So it's covered for an additional amount of time. So let's go ahead and talk about it. It's kind of cold today, so I'm going to talk about it inside. All right, so from the top, I pulled the truck off of a charger one day, and when I turned it on to go home, I got a service vehicle soon warning. And so I brought it into the dealership to have the EV certified tech take a look at it. Initially, when he ran the code, it didn't quite look like it was something that was a must replace issue. So he did an update or two for me, and we got it back on the road. It cleared out the warnings. Then after a day or two of driving it, the service vehicle warning came back. We put it back on the scanner to take a look and see, and it told me that one of my battery modules, one of the cells within that module, was not actually storing the same amount of power as the rest of them. So it was only one cell within the entire module, which is one of 9 modules here in my standard range. So just one little cell was causing a little bit of an issue. I say that because a few people on forums have talked about how they've had that kind of same issue. What it really and honestly needs to do is we had to replace the module with the bad cell. And then after about 3 days, we got the part in after we had ordered it once we diagnosed it. So I was actually really impressed with how quickly the part came into the parts department. Our parts guys are actually really good at letting people know kind of when stuff comes in and when stuff is ready to get going. A guy in my office, like immediately after the piece got dropped off from the truck, and he was saying, hey, your battery's here and ready to go. The next step was to pull the battery out and then ultimately replace the battery module. Now, I'm not gonna go too much into detail on the intricacies of replacing these battery cells, the kind of science behind it. I just don't know enough about the actual, service side of that. I was able to kind of get behind the scenes and shoot the video and do all of that, but there are a lot of things that I could try and explain, but I would do kind of a disservice to you because I just wouldn't be able to do it. And our tech here is a little camera shy, doesn't really quite want to do it. But I will link a couple really, really good videos that are interesting and explain the process a lot more in depth than I'm going to be able to. Those people do a great job. One of them is actually another Ford dealership that I'm going to go ahead and link to you because they do a great job at covering the repairs on EVs. So if you are interested in going into more detail about that, they'll be linked down below. It's a great resource, and they'll help you kind of understand what's actually going on underneath you while you're driving your truck. But here's my perspective from being a little bit closer in the dealership to kind of watch it and see what was going on, as well as some of the things that the tech ended up talking to me about. So Jeff is our EV certified tech here at Hunt Ford. He is a master technician, so he has been around for quite a while, and he is, our most capable technician in terms of EVs. And this isn't actually the first battery he's had to drop and ultimately work on. He's actually done this whole module repair on another vehicle, one of our customers' vehicles. So he kind of had a better idea of what to do because he's already done this part of the process. We dropped the battery. It weighs 1,600 pounds for those of you counting. That's just the standard range. It weighs 1,600 pounds. We pulled off the weather covering and the seal that keeps it from getting water inside of it. And we got it pulled off and we're able to take a look at the module that was bad. The longest part of the process was actually a balancing process for the module. And what that's doing is it's just making sure all of the modules inside the battery are able to actually kind of almost uniformly have the same amount of power, or at least that's how it was explained to me from our tech Jeff. But that process actually ended up taking overnight. We got started a little bit later in the day. He pulled the battery down about 3 o'clock, and by the time he got finished, it was time to go home for him. We left it going on over the weekend, and we came back in on Monday, and everything was good to go. So I've actually been driving for the past 4 weeks or so with the updated battery, and a couple of things. First off, the warranty process was super smooth. Just had to do the same thing that I would do on any other warranty process, from any vehicle from Ford. Just going through the service department and letting them let me know kind of what's needed as I was going through it. I did get a loaner, so I just drove a 3.5 F-150 for a few days, which it was kind of interesting to go back to a gas truck that had a 36-gallon tank after driving a standard range Lightning for the past few days. You kind of don't realize how much you think about range until you don't have to think about it ever again. I still much prefer the way my Lightning drives, but that was interesting for 3 or 4 days of, not ever really thinking about gas or range or anything like that. So, just something I noticed was kind of funny. And then other than that, I've had no issues. One thing that was actually really funny is it gave me an additional 12 miles of range. Now, it could have been the weather being perfect, but my max range after getting the battery fixed and the module replaced is actually 12 miles higher than the max advertised from Ford. So I was getting 252 miles of range versus the 240 that was kind of advertised. And part of that could be the way that I drive. I don't drive very far every day. Commute's only about 4 miles, but it was nice to be able to kind of see that it actually improved things a little bit, like visually. Other than that, it was a very, very smooth process. I know it's kind of scary, and the idea that having an issue with a component that's so integral to making sure your vehicle works, the drivetrain, the powertrain, basically. After 7,000 miles, some things can go wrong. It's just part of owning a vehicle. And yes, it was a little inconvenient. I had to bring it in, but the warranty process was super smooth, and everyone involved here at my dealership, at least, was really good about knowing exactly which steps to follow. And I've actually heard pretty good feedback from other people who have had to do this replacement at their dealership. And now that kind of the information has gone out and people kind of know what they're talking about and know what they're doing, it's much, much smoother than it would have been initially. So I'm completely confident in the fact that if this were to happen again, I really hope it doesn't, but if it were to happen again, it would be just as smooth and the process wouldn't be nearly as difficult. And let's be honest, it happens. We've had to replace engines of new vehicles before. We've had to, after a few thousand miles, we've had to, replace whole cylinders, just components of engines that break down. These are things that get used over time. And again, I do work for a Ford dealership, so it is admittedly, a little biased, but as an owner of a Lightning, this process was actually really, really smooth. And Ford was pretty responsive on any questions that Jeff had or I had versus anything. So yeah, it was great. I would not let the potential of a battery issue sway my decision making on whether or not I should get a Lightning. I think that the 8-year, 100,000 miles is a really, really generous warranty that will cover pretty much the entire battery electric drivetrain. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them from my perspective, or I can get you some more information. If you are interested in knowing a little bit more about the replacement process or a little bit more in depth, check out those videos I linked below. They're both very, very good. Some of those people are the techs who actually do the repairs and do the research to kind of know what they're working on, and they do a great job. We would love to do something like that here. You all let me know if that would be something that you're interested in. Again, our guys are a little shy back here in the back, but they do a great job here as well. They know just as much, they just don't want to get on camera. Other than that, that's about all I've got for you today, folks. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so down below and hit the notification bell. We've got a lot of videos coming out. I've got a little bit of an update here on the F-150 Lightning. As well, we are getting prepared to start releasing all of our information on the new 2025 models. We're going to go over the Bronco, the F-150, the Super Duty, the Mach-E, the Explorers, everything that's coming out with new features for the 2025 model year. We're about to start going into detail and covering all of them, as well as we've gotten an update or two on some of the models that we've ordered and should be hopefully getting some in the next month or two. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you later.